In his camera roll, I found a screen recording of Raquel and Tom on FaceTime. My stomach dropped into my ass.
The network is running to the bank, like laughing, running to the bank with this scandal. And I haven't seen a single penny. So feel like I've been portrayed as the ultimate villain. My mistakes that I made on camera live on forever. It's not fair.
As we hit the year anniversary since the rumours of Sandoval broke, the drama around this unbelievable affair still isn't over. The most recent news-making headlines: Rachel Leviss is suing Tom Sandoval and Ariana Madix for eavesdropping, revenge porn, invasion of privacy, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. And that's not all. After getting our hands on Rachel's 19-page court document, it seems to me that she's looking to incriminate a lot of the other cast and crew members too, including DJ James Kennedy, Andy Cohen, and Scheana Shay, to name just a few. Now, there's so much to cover for this one, guys, so we're going to have to make it a two-parter. So in this video, we'll be breaking down the allegations Rachel is making and who she seems to be bringing charges against, as although Tom and Ariana are the only named defendants, I think more named defendants are soon to be added. Then, next week, in part 2, we'll dive into what Rachel is asking for, her causes of action, and how I think this is likely to play out in court. If you haven't seen this full lawsuit, guys, it's something you're not going to want to miss, as it's truly wild and a scandal in itself. So stay tuned, as there's so many twists and turns in this lawsuit, and I can't wait to get stuck into it with you guys and hear your thoughts. Before we dive in, here's a little reminder to subscribe if you're new. This channel is all about diving into the most talked about Bravo news and headlines, from Vanderpump Rules to Real Housewives, Summer House, and everything in between. So if you're a Bravo addict like me, don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date with all the latest gossip, turn on notifications, and let me know what you want to see me cover next in the comments below. Let's dive into this lawsuit. This is going to be a wild ride. On the 29th of February 2024, Rachel Leviss filed a lawsuit against Tom Sandoval, Ariana Madix, and unnamed does 1 to 50 in the Superior Court of the State of California for eavesdropping, revenge porn, invasion of privacy, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Interestingly, the reason she filed on this date is because the statute of limitations to bring a lawsuit for invasion of privacy is 1 year. And since Ariana discovered the videos of Rachel on Sandoval's phone on March 1st last year, Rachel was down to the wire before she decided to file, the day before the statute of limitations ran out. So what does the lawsuit actually say? Well, let's get into it. Starting with the preliminary statement, the suit says, plaintiff Rachel Leviss is a former cast member on Vanderpump Rules. This case arises from a scandal of epic proportions starting in March 2023, stemming from an affair between Leviss and another cast member, Tom Sandoval. Sandoval, as it came to be known, went instantly viral and was the subject of extraordinary press coverage, even in the mainstream media. Sandoval injected new life into a previously faltering series, causing its viewership to explode to unseen levels and making its cast members mega celebrities. Due to a narrative deliberately fermented by Bravo, Evolution, and the cast, Leviss became an object of public scorn and ridicule. To be clear, Leviss has repeatedly acknowledged that her actions were morally objectionable and hurtful to Madix. She has offered numerous apologies. There is more to the story, however. Lost in the mix was that Leviss was a victim of the predatory and dishonest behaviour of an older man who recorded sexually explicit videos of her without her knowledge or consent, which were then distributed, disseminated, and discussed publicly by a scorned woman seeking vengeance, catalysing the scandal. Leviss ultimately checked herself into a mental health facility and remained there for 3 months while Bravo, Evolution, and the cast milked the interest her excoriation had peaked. Now, I have a couple of thoughts on this part. Firstly, Rachel's statement, or I guess her lawyer's statement, that there is more to the story immediately screams to me that she's using this lawsuit as her way of telling her side. Probably knowing that her podcast, Rachel Goes Rogue, isn't bringing her the number of viewers she'd like and spreading her side of the story widely enough. Rachel knew that filing this lawsuit would bring with it a lot of press and would be her chance to get her story across while the newest season of Vanderpump Rules airs and she continues to be painted as the villain on TV since she chose not to return to season 11. The next thing that I feel I should clarify before we go any further is that I do agree with Rachel's statement that she was a victim of the predatory and dishonest behaviour of an older man who recorded sexually explicit videos of her without her knowledge or consent. This is a complete invasion of privacy, and if she truly didn't know these videos were being filmed, it's a disgusting and disrespectful move from Tom that he should face consequences for. My final point I want to mention about this opening statement before we move on is that Rachel and her lawyers refer to Ariana as a scorned woman seeking vengeance. This is just one of many examples in this lawsuit where we'll see Rachel use hateful terms and name calling in a legal document to address Tom or Ariana, so keep an eye out for this as we run through. But to me, this screams as though an official legal document is being used as a public domain for Rachel to present her narrative in a coherent way, which she struggled to do in other forums in the past. In the preliminary statement, Rachel accuses Ariana of distributing and publicly discussing the explicit videos of her. We'll dive into this as we get further into the filing, but there's a very big distinction to make between sharing the video and simply talking about it. As far as I'm aware, but do correct me if I'm wrong, simply talking about a video like this publicly isn't a criminal offence, and I'm unsure if there's any proof at all that Ariana shared or sent this video to anyone. Let's keep going. The next part of the preliminary statement says, to make matters worse, Leviss was misled by Bravo and Evolution into believing that she was contractually barred from speaking out about her mistreatment. As a result, she suffered in silence as Bravo and Evolution watched viewership explode and the rest of the cast enjoyed unseen levels of public recognition and professional opportunity. Meanwhile, Leviss, who was humiliated and villainized for public consumption, remains a shell of her former self with her career prospects stunted and her reputation in tatters. Having taken the time necessary to heal mentally and emotionally, Leviss brings this action at long last to attain a measure of justice that has so far eluded her. This bit is all pretty self-explanatory, though one thing to note here is, as we'll see repeatedly in the rest of this lawsuit, this part of the statement mentions Bravo and Evolution as well as other cast members, despite the fact that none of them are named defendants in the suit yet, and the only people she's actually suing at this time are Tom and Ariana. The next part of the lawsuit goes into the parties. The first three parties mentioned are Rachel, Tom, and Ariana. This essentially says that all three of them are residents of the County of Los Angeles in California and are former and current cast members of Vanderpump Rules. Then, Rachel and her lawyers address who they're referring to when they talk about the does 1 through 50. This part says, does 1 through 50 are individuals and/or entities whose true names and capacities are currently not known to Leviss. Does 1 through 50 are legally responsible and liable to Leviss to the extent of the liability of the named defendants. Leviss will seek leave of the court to amend this complaint to reflect the true names and capacities of the defendants designated herein as does 1 through 50 when such identities and capacities become known. As far as I understand it, this basically means that Rachel is giving herself room to add named defendants to bring charges against once she has done further investigation into who else may have been involved in the dissemination of the videos of her and manipulating how she's portrayed on screen. However, because she had a deadline to file this suit due to the statute of limitations, she was forced to file without listing all of the named defendants, and this is her way of making space for those names to be added later. It's highly likely that some or all of these unnamed does will be members of Bravo and Evolution's production crews, since half of the allegations in this suit are against them. Couple this with a statement by well-known reality TV attorney Garagos from an interview with Deadline today. This lawsuit is squarely about illegal behaviour and those who traffic in it and enable it, and I think it's fair to claim that Rachel is looking to go head-to-head with production crews. I also wouldn't be surprised if Scheana, James, and Andy Cohen become named defendants further down the line, as some of the allegations in this suit directly implicate them by name. So I think it's a case of gathering evidence and the lawyers doing their due diligence before legally including them as defendants in this case. But I think it's all being worked on in the background. Rachel and her lawyers made sure to cover every possible allegation, leaving no stone unturned, so that she can name as many defendants as she wants to later down the line. The next part basically goes on to state that each of these unnamed defendants was acting on behalf of Tom or Ariana and acted alongside them, knowing that his, her, its conduct was wrongful and/or unlawful. Right. Now we're getting into the juicy part, the general allegations. So, Allegation A refers to the hostile and unsafe working environment on Vanderpump Rules. It reads, this case centers on Vanderpump Rules, a reality television series that premiered on Bravo in 2013. The series revolves around the staff at Lisa Vanderpump's restaurants in West Hollywood, Sir Restaurant and Lounge, Pump Restaurant, and Tom Tom Restaurant and Bar. Vanderpump, a British restaurateur and former Real Housewives of Beverly Hills cast member, is the central figure of the series, which focuses on her employees' drama-filled personal and professional lives. The show has aired continuously for over a decade, and its 11th season premiered on January 30th, 2024. Leviss was a cast member on Vanderpump Rules from 2016 to 2023. Leviss made her first appearance on the show as the girlfriend of cast member James Kennedy, a DJ prone to violent outbursts and grappling with long-standing substance abuse issues and emotional dysregulation. Kennedy would regularly berate Leviss, falsely accuse her of cheating, and act in a generally unhinged manner. Some of this was captured on camera, some was not. Leviss eventually warned Kennedy that she would leave him if he did not stop drinking. However, she soon learned that his despicable behaviour was not solely a function of alcohol abuse. At Thanksgiving with Leviss's family in Arizona, Kennedy erupted at Leviss's mother and father and kicked her family dog 4 times in an uncontrollable rage. In 2021, Leviss ended their relationship and broke off their engagement. Kennedy's history of violent and dangerous behaviour was well known by Bravo, Evolution, and the cast. Kennedy once physically assaulted then cast member Kristen Doute on camera. The footage, however, never aired. Nor has Kennedy faced any repercussions for his actions, which would otherwise be fireable at a minimum, due in part to the intervention of his powerful ally Lisa Vanderpump, who has served as his protector. In 2021, after 3 seasons as a recurring character, Leviss was cast as a lead. At the same time, however, Leviss was in a vulnerable state due to the breakdown of her engagement with Kennedy, which was catalysed by his chronic substance abuse, emotional instability, and control of behaviour. While she had previously moderated her alcohol intake because of Kennedy's heavy drinking, Leviss began drinking much more heavily in the aftermath of their breakup. Leviss was encouraged to do so by production and Sandoval, who believed it would make for better television and readily provided provided alcohol for her consumption. This first allegation is where we start to see Rachel refer to some of the other cast members of Vanderpump Rules, including Lisa Vanderpump and DJ James Kennedy. She does a lot in this lawsuit to slander James, saying he's prone to violent outbursts, substance abuse issues, and emotional dysregulation, even though he isn't one of the named defendants yet. This suggests that James will one day become one of the so far unnamed defendants if she can find a way to bring him in. Plus, it helps Rachel paint her picture of how she wants things perceived and tell her side of the story. The points about alcohol consumption while filming are also really interesting and are claims that have been reiterated by many ex-Bravo housewives. Most recently, Leah McSweeney has raised her own lawsuit against Bravo and Andy Cohen for discrimination and retaliation, saying that while she featured on The Real Housewives of New York City, producers were engaging in guerrilla-type psychological warfare intended to pressurize her into a psychological break and cause her to relapse on her sobriety. Let me know in the comments below if you want me to dive into this one in a future video. This is something that Bethenny Frankel also raised in her podcast with Rachel back in August 2023, where she discussed how Bravo and Evolution are known to exploit cast members and ply them with alcohol to make for a more dramatic season, which Bethenny has personally seen happen to Luann de Lesseps and Sonia Morgan on Real Housewives of New York. Rachel's allegations against Bravo production and Sandoval for encouraging her to drink more are not really relevant in the terms of this lawsuit and the charges of revenge porn, invasion of privacy, eavesdropping, and intentional infliction of emotional distress against Tom and Ariana, though they may hold more weight if Bravo and Evolution become named defendants in this case. We'll have to wait and see. The allegation continues. By season 10, Kennedy had resumed drinking again and picked up a new girlfriend weeks after his breakup with Leviss. All of this caused untold harm to Leviss's mental health, inducing her to drink more and leaving her vulnerable to what followed. It carries on. Imbibed and emotionally raw, Leviss began to rely heavily on Sandoval for emotional support. Sandoval in turn began confiding in Leviss about the dire state of his relationship, describing it as a business partnership and casting its end as foregone. On or about August 10, 2022, Leviss and Sandoval began sleeping together. The affair continued apace as Sandoval's relationship with Madix further deteriorated. Although purportedly secret, the affair was in fact well known to many cast members and suspected by others. Leviss and Sandoval were not particularly discreet. Leviss is informed and believes that Madix knew about it as early as the fall of 2022. Indeed, in December of 2022, Madix scolded Leviss and Sandoval for being handsy in public, admonishing them to save the story for season 11. Accusing Ariana of already knowing about the affair feels like Rachel is trying to justify what she did to the courts in order to paint Ariana and Tom out to be scheming against her this entire time with some help from Bravo. Potentially this is her trying to show how they intentionally inflicted emotional distress by planning how this would publicly unravel. But to me, this all feels like hearsay, and I doubt that Ariana knew before finding those videos or that anyone would be able to prove that in court. From here, Rachel's statement continues. At the time, Vanderpump Rules was facing an uncertain future. Interest among the public had waned and the plot had grown stale. Madix, in particular, was reportedly on the chopping block. In the absence of a sticky new storyline, there is every reason to believe Vanderpump Rules would have been cancelled. Madix was as aware of these pressures as Sandoval, and both were heavily interested financially and reputationally in the show remaining on the air. By extension, if their relationship was already on the rocks, and if Sandoval was intent on brazenly carrying out an illicit affair with another cast member, they had every incentive to leverage these salacious threads into the storyline Vanderpump Rules so desperately needed. That is precisely what happened in a series of otherwise unlikely events. It's interesting that Rachel mentions saving the story for season 11 and using Sandoval to keep Ariana in the cast and keep Vanderpump Rules on air. Firstly, there's no way that anyone would have predicted this affair to blow up the way it did. How many other housewives or Bravo celebrities have had partners who have had affairs and it's never garnered this much media attention? So that's hard to believe in and of itself. Secondly, the source cited here is a reality blurb article where an inside source is quoted stating, Ariana was on the chopping block. Producers were like, we've had it with her. She was boring and they believe she didn't bring anything to the table. She didn't have much going on at the time and she was on the show for so long because she was dating Tom. The source continued, there wasn't supposed to be a season 11. The show was supposed to be over after 10 seasons. Nobody had a contract to continue. So the only reason the show got extended for another season was because of the affair. We've discussed before on this channel how Vanderpump Rules ratings after season 10 weren't looking good, and it was presumed publicly that this would be the final season. Producer Alex Baskin has also commented on this in interviews, admitting that season 9 was bad and the show was struggling to survive. He stated, the story of Vanderpump is one of survival more than anything. We were coming off a really tough 9th season and we had the cast firings before the season, and there was a low energy season during the pandemic. To the network's credit, they gave us another run at it and we had a resurgence anyway. So it seems to be anyone's guess how close Vanderpump Rules really was to being cancelled. But Ariana using the scandal to stay on the show? I just don't believe that's true or really relevant to any of the allegations being made here. Anyway, let's keep going. The next allegation is really the crux of the lawsuit, while Ariana and Tom are the only named defendants. Sandoval and Madix record and distribute illicit videos of Leviss. It says, on or about March 1st, 2023, Sandoval was performing with his cover band at Tom Tom in West Hollywood when his phone purportedly fell from his pocket and slid unlocked locked or otherwise fully accessible into the crowd. It was reportedly retrieved by an attendee and handed over to Madix, who searched it and found sexually explicit videos of Leviss. This is something we've seen play out on Vanderpump Rules.
His camera roll, I found a screen recording of Rachel and Tom on FaceTime. My stomach dropped into my ass.
I would normally delete something like that, but it had been such a busy, chaotic day, so I quickly got us outside so everyone around us couldn't hear us talk.
I called Raquel saying, if you have ever given a about me, tell me when this happened.
The allegation continues. Leviss is informed and believes that the explicit videos were recorded by Sandoval without her knowledge or consent in or around February 2023. The two videos Leviss has seen depict her in a state of undress and masturbating. However, given Sandoval's apparent practice of secretly recording their video calls, Leviss has every reason to assume there are additional illicit videos and or photographs of her that she has not yet seen. This part is honestly really unsettling to me. I deeply feel for Rachel that she has been put in this position where she feels explicit content of her that she doesn't even know about may be stored somewhere by Sandoval. I can't imagine how she's feeling, trying to rack her brain and remember all the things they've done together on FaceTime or in person that he might have recorded. No one deserves to feel that sense of fear and anxiety, and I think this is probably one of the most relevant and true points in the entire suit. The next point states, Leviss is informed and believes that Madix obtained at least 2 illicit videos of Leviss and distributed them and or showed them to others without Leviss's knowledge or consent. At a minimum, Madix circulated the illicit videos to herself and Leviss. She also immediately informed production about what she had found. In addition, many other individuals have demonstrated intimate familiarity with their contents, leading Leviss to believe the circle of recipients is wider. The mention of 2 intimate videos is interesting. As far as I'm aware, there has only been one that has been publicly discussed on the show or the cast spin-off podcasts. With regards to Ariana sending it to herself and to Rachel, I'm not sure how far this constitutes distribution, although there may be some liability here for Ariana if she did in fact send the video from Tom's phone to hers. Although I can imagine that in that moment, if she did do so, she was probably just in shock and not really thinking about sharing it publicly or even the consequences of what sending it to herself could mean from a legal perspective. I also expect that the belief that the circle of recipients is wider is one of the things that will continue to be investigated, leading to potentially naming some defendants in the does 1 through 50 if anyone else can be found to have received or shared the video. The next allegation is against someone else who yet again isn't currently a named defendant in the lawsuit, Scheana. This allegation comes under the headline, Leviss battered after Madix steals and sends illicit videos. It says, on the night of March 1st, Leviss was in New York with another cast member, Shay, taping Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen. Having finished filming, Leviss and Shay were at a bar when Leviss received a text from Madix. You are dead to me. Alongside the message were the 2 videos of Leviss that Madix had reportedly discovered on Sandoval's phone. Leviss experienced a swirl of emotions in response, including shock and fear. Shock because she did not know Sandoval had recorded pornographic videos of her. Fear because these videos were now in the hands of someone who hated her guts and was out for blood. She was terrified Madix would leak them on the internet. Again, if this is how the events played out on that night, with Ariana sending that text and video messages to Rachel, I can see why she would have been scared that the videos would be leaked. Though, does sending Rachel the videos of herself count as distribution? I'm not sure. Any lawyers out there, let us know. I also don't recall Rachel saying anywhere else that the videos were sent to her in a text from Ariana. As far as I'm aware, both Ariana and Rachel mentioned a phone call where Ariana was shouting at her, and that's when Scheana got involved. Let me know if I'm missing something here. The next part of the allegation addresses Scheana's alleged assault, which has been covered everywhere in depth, so I'll just quickly run through what it says. Reacting to the revelation in apparent shock and anger, Shay violently assaulted Leviss, shoving her aggressively into a brick wall, punching her in the face, and throwing her phone into the street. The blow to Leviss's face caused a rupture above her left eyebrow and severe swelling and bruising above her left eye. Leviss was told by a treating physician that her busted brow would permanently scar. Shaken, Leviss flew home the next day and informed her family of what was happening. Again, although the claims against Scheana and the temporary restraining order have been discussed at length and dropped, I wouldn't be surprised if Scheana soon becomes a named defendant in this lawsuit too. Including a whole allegation just about Scheana speaks volumes that Rachel isn't done. Tom and Ariana won't be the only people she battles in court. The next and final 3 allegations in this suit are against Bravo, Evolution, and Andy, adding weight to the fact that Andy Cohen and multiple producers from both companies may end up becoming named defendants in this case once Rachel and her lawyers have time to gather more evidence against them. But you'll have to wait for part 2 next week to find out what Rachel is accusing Andy and production of doing in this suit. Plus, we'll be covering what Rachel is asking for in terms of damages and punishment for Tom, Ariana, and does 1 to 50, her causes of action, and how I think this is likely to play out in court. Thanks for watching. watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you're the first to know when we release part 2. Plus, stay tuned for more gossip around Vanderpump Rules, Summer House, The Valley, and all your favourite housewives drama. And in the meantime, you can head over to our Vanderpump Rules playlist for more deep dives into Tom, Ariana, and this season's gossip.